Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm Sawat Balazi, and we have a great discussion today. We're going to be talking about the stereotypes of feminism. So can someone tell me what feminism is?
Yeah, feminism is the equal rights of women when it goes to the grounds of political, social, and economical equality to men.
But actually knowing like the definition, you should know the history of it. In a sense, there's three waves. The first wave came from France, which was in 1880s to 1920s. And in that wave, what was accomplished was women were allowed to vote. And second was women wanted their property inherited to them instead of going to their men. Mm-hmm. Now the second wave was in the 1970s to the 1980s, maybe to the 60s it started. And in that part was the equal acts right, and that movement was when women wanted to be equal in a workplace than men. You know, they shouldn't have to feel like they're dominated by men in their workplace. They have equal rights. They do the same job. They are able to do whatever men are to do. And that time, that's what the second wave was. Now the third wave is in 1990s. It can be present time. We are still fighting for equal pay, to be comfortable in our own skin, wear what we want. We don't have to subdue to having to wear makeup or having to be less hairy or anything. At the end of the day, we have to be comfortable in our own skin, and that's what necessarily we were fighting for in the third wave.
Okay. And then, like, with that being said, what are some stereotypes that's synonymous with feminism, or what people think is synonymous with feminism?
Well, I think when you walk into a room and then people automatically assume you're a feminist, it's it's usually associated with hating men. And I think that's the biggest stereotype that comes with feminism, is that you're only for women and you only want women's rights, and that you hate men ultimately. And that's a huge stereotype that feminists really have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
And another stereotype that feminists have to deal with is that they're very radical. For example, a lot of people think that feminists have hairy bodies, and they shove it in other people's faces to show that women can be just as hairy as men.
And while that is a feminist statement, that's not what feminism is about. Being okay with having hairy armpits or not having to shave your legs is to show that we don't need to explain why we're doing that. It's showing that we don't have to be hairless to be sexy or to be sensual or to be beautiful. It's a feminist statement in and of itself, because we don't have to explain why we're doing this.
Yeah, it's like it's just to not conform to society, basically. Right. And like, to go back on the man-hating stereotype, it's like, it's true, because with the Time's Up movement that's happening in Hollywood with the sexual abuse, Terry Crews, who's, a buff actor, he's really tall, and he just looks like, scary. He was sexually assaulted when he was like a teenager, or like 20s, but he couldn't come out because people were like, you're buff and you're a guy, so why, like, how did you get assaulted by a woman? Right. And that's so sad, because people always think about like sexual assault and rape and stuff, and that's only for women, but that's not the case. And feminism is trying to help men too be comfortable and come out and be like, I was sexually assaulted by a woman, and I feel like I need to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think another stereotype that comes with feminism is that you're weak and that you are sensitive, and that we are emotional, we are like sensitive women, and that's not the case. I think when people assume that feminists are weak, I think it's not me who is weak, but the person who's calling me that, because what we're really trying to do is normalize our feelings and normalize vulnerability. So
And it's kind of like it's like how everyone's saying 2018, it's so PC now. You can't say anything without offending anyone, but that's not the case. Everyone's offended because we realize how it's offensive, and we have a right to be offended. So it's not because everyone's too PC and everyone's just sensitive. It's just, we realize in this day and age, it's 2018, and who's running the country, we should be offended, and we should take everything personally, because it's our lives that matter.
And similar to that, another stereotype is that feminism is only for women, when in fact men can be feminists and trans people can be feminists, because feminists are fighting for equality for all. And
I think like we recognize what the stereotype is white feminism, which is like, you know, certain group of people fighting for just what they believe in, but they exclude a different group of people, because like feminism is something we should do as a whole entire world, a society, all of us a unity. There's no point of having like 4 different types of feminism, because at the end of the day we need to come together, and at the end of the day we want to be equal to everyone else. That's everyone's basic right, and that's what we're necessarily fighting for, is the basic right of being equal. It doesn't have to be that we're fighting for being equal to like such and such. It's being equal to men and women and trans and, you know, white or Muslim or Christian or, you know, brown or Indian. It's everyone wants to be equal. It's not just a race or a religion or a group, you know.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, and like just to dive in a little bit more about what white feminism is, it's not necessarily like the race white, it's just like the category. So basically white feminism is when a girl or like a person is trying to fight for the right of like not shaving their arms or something like that, but like the biggest story shouldn't be like, oh, let's not shave our arms. It should be, hey, women aren't getting paid enough, you know what I mean? It's kind of like focusing on something that doesn't really affect everyone. It just affects like a certain group, and it doesn't really have to be race, because like a black girl or like a Muslim can be considered a white feminist. It's just mostly the topic. And like you said, you brought up trans people, and that's like a big part of feminism. If you exclude trans women or just trans people who don't even identify like with the gender, you're not a feminist. That's not what true feminism is, because just because they're not cis, just because they decided to transition into like a different body or a different gender doesn't mean that they're not a woman. So if you exclude that whole group, that whole community, you're not a real feminist, and that's just a hot take.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing is that feminists are fighting for equality between all people and are not trying to be superior to men or start a competition to be better than men. We're just trying to have equal pay, equal rights, equal control over our bodies and stuff like that.
Equal opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's about time that's happened. It's taken this long for us to at least attempt to get equal pay. At this point, we still haven't seen a female president, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they were like, yeah, women were able to vote just in 2003, kind of like a joke, because it took 19 amendments for women to vote, you know what I mean? But yeah, so this was like a great topic about what the stereotypes of feminism is, but let's just transition into how the stereotypes of feminism was quote unquote busted, and how we and ourselves have busted it.
Well, I mean, all of us here are living proof that we disprove these stereotypes. Sawad, for instance, is super knowledgeable, and like she loves and is able to talk about a sport which is primarily male dominated, and I think that's huge. You know, you're in a male-dominated sport, and a lot of times people would think that you're probably just a cheerleader. Yeah. But no, you come with the facts, and you are able to interview the players, and I think that's really cool. And then we also have Sakina here, who I think wears her feminism beautifully, because she wears her hijab in a way that's not.
It's not oppressive.
It's right.
It's a part of her culture.
Exactly. And I think with the Muslim community and in that culture, you're kind of raised to cook and clean for men, and you personally you don't succumb to those stereotypes, and you are your own individual woman.
I believe it
Muslim
should be
woman.
for both
Exactly.
men and women, you know,
Exactly.
to learn those, you know.
And then after I got to know Angelica and Kirsten a little bit better, you two were both primarily raised by women, and with that, you were shown that women can do just as much as men can, if not better, right? Because we all know we all know the strengths of women, and I think that's huge. And for me personally, I wear my feminism in a bunch of different ways. I don't really stick to just one thing. I was raised very diverse, and one day I could come in here looking like total mess with no makeup, and that is a feminist statement, and then the other day I'll come in here with booties, some cute outfit or whatever, and I wear my feminism differently every day. If I feel strongly about a topic, I will voice my opinion, even if it's unpopular, because as a woman and as a feminist, I want to be heard, right? And I want to be respected, and I want that opinion to be acknowledged and recognized. And I think what we all have to think about is that feminism isn't just one little thing that's only for women. It's a movement that is meant to empower, nurture, and heal the world now and the upcoming generations.
Yes.
Because when you understand and respect the problems that come with women, you can respect everyone.
Yes.
And I think that's important for like our growing girls and boys. So, yeah.
No, and I love how you hit everyone's femininity like on the nose, like everyone, and not even that, like it's just feminism, like you said, it's not one thing, it's not one color, it's not just one coat, it's everything, and it can be anything, and you can show your feminism by wearing short or like basketball shorts and like a baggy t-shirt, and that's a part of feminism because you don't want to conform to society and how they think that women should be all cute and button up all the
Right.
time, you know what I mean? So that was great.
What we're
And
trying to accomplish is we don't always need to explain ourselves.
yes.
So when I come into the room with makeup on or with my hair done, I don't want to have to hear, who are you trying to impress?
It's for
or
yourself. It's
who are you
what
here
you
to
wanna
look
do.
pretty for?
Yes.
You must have a date, or you must go on must have a boyfriend or something. No, I wanted to do it for myself.
Yeah, nothing more annoying than who you trying to impress. And there are some girls and guys that want to impress their crush or significant other, and that's
that's okay.
100% valid. That is 100% valid and okay. But we're trying to say, like, you don't have to. But if you choose to, that's all you.
So
Yeah.
I think we pretty much covered
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can keep talking and talking. This topic, like, is just so long. But of course, we can't do that because Poff would get really mad. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm really excited and happy that we had this discussion. And hopefully, you guys at home heard what we said and take a little piece or pieces by pieces and, you know, start to see what we see. And thank you guys. And I'll see you guys next time.
The exponential growth from the program from my first year to my third year now, that's what keeps me coming back and keeps me excited and just like fulfills me as a person.
It's so impressive, and we every time we walk in here, you guys are doing something different. It's great. It's
Nothing but opportunities here, and we have sports to cover, we have the equipment.
Because the more ambitious you are, the more opportunities you'll have.
on-the-job training is huge.
Get the hands-on experience.
When someone asks who can do it, you know, you can raise your hand and say, I can do it, so.
Joining the class was the best decision I ever made.
Stand by, we're going to go to cut one. And cut one. Cross court to Audrey Jones. Audrey for three! It is good! With 1.3 seconds left on the game clock, Audrey Jones with one of the biggest shots ever.
The sky's the limit, really, with what we can do here.